Do you know if like Little Nicky
the hit new cozy game starring Adam Sandler. Dress up Adam Sandler in a variety of pretty dresses and defeat the power of evil with the force of style.
Oh my god. That was dumb.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the JRPG Pursuit, a podcast all about JRPGs, from playing to collecting and everything in between. I am Emily, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts today.
I'm Branden.
And I'm Abdallah.
And today we're diving into a bit of a controversial topic about the length of JRPGs. Are they too long? Are they too short? Or are they just about the same length? So we're going to kind of butt heads a little bit here, I think, today on the podcast and talk about our hot takes when it comes to the length of JRPGs. But before we do so, we figured after all the Black Friday sales and everything, we will talk about some of our recent pickups. So who'd like to start today with what you picked up?
Ooh, me.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't have a ton to show, but that's because the stuff that I bought was stupid.
Stupid? Are you sure?
Well, expensive.
Okay.
Too much money that it's for things I don't need. That's how I define it.
We've never heard that on the podcast.
No, first I bought SMT Vengeance, the Steelbook for PS5. This was $20 or whatever. This is fine. I don't feel bad about that. Then the stupid thing. Bought the Quest 3.
I might have to agree with you. A stupid thing.
Yeah, it's a little stupid.
It's
I'm
cool.
gonna play like 3 games on it.
I have it on my shelf back there, so I'm right there with you. Stupid stuff.
I was playing Batman last night. I was the Batman, and I punched the heck out of my bookshelf so hard,
no.
and my wrist was throbbing. And I was like, okay, no. And then I just took it off and I was like, okay, I'm done. That's it.
That's hilarious.
It was too real. I really hurt my hand hitting a guy. So
it's a great game though.
It is a great game. It's very cool. Yeah. It's like,
fun.
It's very immersive.
Clearly.
And I was enjoying it until I broke my hand. But yeah, that's my big thing. I want to have all the stuff, I think, is my my deal, is I want to own the platforms just in case a game that looks cool comes out, and I'm like, well, I don't gotta worry. I'm all set. I got it all ready to go. Yeah. So that's it's not really an excuse, because I'm the one who suffers the consequences for my financial decisions, not hurting anybody else. So,
well, yeah, if it's not taking away from other things, then
at least
it's
now
fine to indulge on what we call stupid purchases.
At least now Branden and I can hang out in the metaverse.
We're going to spend so much time in the metaverse. We're going to be little virtual boys with Zuckerberg. And I'm
going to invite him to my little house.
I can't wait to show you my virtual crib. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really it. Like I said, I don't have a ton because I need to sit down with myself and kind of
have a talk,
get real, have a talk with myself. So, that's it.
Are we going to have a purge coming?
Yeah, maybe. I probably should.
His next episode will be, so I sold.
Just me taking
Your New Year's
boxes
resolution.
Of games. My New Year's resolution is to get rid of all this crap. That's so much stuff. What am I ever going to play? I don't know. There's probably 20.
Right,
Yeah, there's probably 20% of the games I own. It's realistically, am I ever going to have any interest in playing them? Probably not.
But that's okay. Sometimes we collect for other reasons that we talked about before on the podcast.
That's true.
Yeah.
So we don't have to always have a justified reason to own something.
True. And also, a lot of that stuff that I'm never going to play, I did get rid of in my recent, purge of games. So, I feel a little, it was, freeing in a way. It's
weights lifted off your shoulders whenever I do that.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's that.
Cool. How about you, Dalla? What'd you pick up?
Yeah, I got quite a few things during Black Friday. I did black out a little bit in terms of games. I'm still waiting on a box from Video Games Plus, so that'll come.
I am too.
So we'll see where That's another like 4 or
They
5
had too many big
games.
deals.
I know.
I think they're overwhelmed by how many packages they have to send out.
I don't know. I definitely blacked out, but I'll highlight a few for right now. One of them being, I mean, the same thing. I got the same deal as Branden on Shin Megami Tensei Vengeance. So I had that on the Switch, but been waiting to grab the PS5 version. I picked up Like a Dragon for cheap. So the Infinite Wealth. I played the original Like the Dragon, and that was, if you talk about long games, was also like an 80 to 90 hour game to get through. But a ton of fun the whole way through. I love that game. Like I think I platinumed it too.
Oh wow!
Like it was very easy to platinum, and it was really fun game. So yeah, I'm super excited to play this at some point. It's been on my must play at some point list backlog. You know how that goes.
So to have a new game too, deeply discounted.
Exactly.
Sega comes in clutch, I think.
I know Sega. That's why I usually wait on the Sega games. Honestly,
I always wait.
Because like they get discounted so much. It's great.
So much quick. And so quickly.
I know.
I can't imagine this is a good business model, but they keep doing it. So
they
it must
do.
Work for them.
And I just never feel like I need to buy it day one, especially if I'm not planning to play it day one. So, And then last, I picked up Fantasian Neo Dimension, and let me see, my light's like glaring there. First off, I love the artwork on the box itself.
That's my phone. That's my phone background right now.
Yeah,
I love that picture.
It is incredible artwork. But yeah, I'm super excited. I played a little bit of it on Apple Arcade back in the day, but never really got far because phone game, like, I don't know. I know
hard. Yeah.
My ADHD will probably just get me to do something else. So ended up not playing through that, but so I'm super excited to play through it finally. And I've heard only great things. Branden, I saw your review on that, so I'm excited. But yeah, that's just a tip of the iceberg. I'm sure I'll share more in the next episodes and stuff.
Once they start trickling in.
Yeah, as they trickle into the mail, and I feel the shame of my.
Oh, did I buy that? I thought I dreamt that.
I keep getting
There's no shame in a good deal.
I keep getting delivery notifications, and I'm just like, oh, I forgot I did this.
Yeah, last week I was a bit, did I go overboard?
Yeah. And I blacked out when I was sending you guys those things, but like when they had those Nintendo games that were discounted for like $15-$20 each, and I was like, I was like in a spur of moment, I just bought like three different games in one box. Like, so I'm just like, I need to make room on my shelf. This is dumb.
It sounds like you might need a purge. I
think it's I give Branden a little I mess with him a little bit on that stuff, but I'm guilty as charged as well as doing.
We all are.
The same thing. So
I think we're all in the same boat, more or less.
We enable each other. This is what we do here.
This is what our group chat is.
It's true.
It's just enabling each other to buy stuff.
Yeah, our group chat is unhealthy from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, my therapist says I can't talk to you guys anymore.
That's so true. Oh my God. But yeah, picked up some good stuff. So yeah, Emily, how about you?
Yeah. I also picked up a few different deals. So Video Games Plus and PNP Games were having pretty good Black Friday sales. So here are just a couple I went ahead and got. One of them is a game that's been recently delisted from storefronts, and that is the Sega Genesis collection. So I wanted to get a hold of this because, again, I never grew up with any Sega consoles, let alone the Sega Genesis. And this comes with a few different JRPGs that might interest our audience if you haven't gotten hold of this yet. So I guess it has Phantasy Star, right? I think it's 1 and 2.
Yeah, 2 and 4.
Sorry, 2 and 4.
It's got
you
2 and 4.
And then there's, why am I blanking on the name? One of the greatest turn-based games is on here too, the collection. That I have a few friends who love, and why am I blanking on it?
Oh, you talking about Shining Force?
Shining Force, yes.
Yes.
So this has also Shining Force 1 and 2 on it, which I always wanted to give it a try because I always hear these comparisons to Fire Emblem, but your characters don't die. But it still kind of has that, difficulty level that I'm curious how they handle it in these games.
Yeah, that's a great collection. That's just a really solid collection overall.
And I think it adds like save
it was on
states and things like
sale.
that.
It's being delisted. I figured now is the time to get it before it's totally gone. And then, I guess speaking of more long JRPGs, Square Enix had a few things on sale, including their Dragon Quest Monsters. The what was this one called? The Dark Prince.
Oh yeah.
And this is usually what people bring up when they compare of how like Pokemon games are no longer good. You should be playing games like this instead if you really want a good monster hunting and collecting kind of and battling experience. So
Yeah.
I heard it's pretty good, like story wise, and it's just a fun kind of, if you really enjoy, the Dragon Quest world and all the little monsters in it, it's just a fun kind of game to go ahead and that. Have you guys played this one yet?
I have not yet.
I haven't played any of the Monsters games. I have a couple of them.
Yeah, it came out on the DS, right? At least here in the US.
There was a Dragon Warrior Monsters on the, I want to say Game Boy Color. I think I have that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I have, I think, one or two of the DS entries.
Yeah, the Joker ones or something. I'm not
There's
sure how they're
Jokers
related.
on there.
Okay,
Yeah. I think they're all just part of that sub-series.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've
I
heard
always found
good
it-
things. I've just, never played them.
Same. And I feel like Dragon Quest, that series, just has to make interesting spin-offs that I really want to dive more into because the main games are really fun. So it's always interesting to how they handle or, take a classic JRPG, but a little bit of a spin to it.
Yeah.
And the last one I'll share today, another Square Enix title, and that is something that we talked about on the channel, the Star Ocean Second Story R reboot here. I'm still a little hesitant about the art style. I won't lie. How they have, the kind of sprites with the 3D rendered kind of backgrounds. So I decided to pick this up on the PS5 rather than the Switch because usually I liked my turn-based games on the Switch when it comes to Square Enix games, and this one has more action fighting, so I thought that might be more suited for the PS5, and also doesn't have the false download necessary little thing
blurb
on the cover like the Switch version ended up having.
It does look really nice on the PS5 though. I beat the game, and so like
I've heard it's pretty.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of games that run maybe well on the Switch just have an extra oomph when you see it on the PS5.
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah,
Octopath Traveler 2, I hear, has that extra oomph
Yeah.
on there.
When you see it in
It's like the
the Switch.
4K and, it makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot more effects going on when there's battles and like attacks and things like that. That's all really cool. And you'll like the one thing is kind of cool about the HD 2D piece about this game is that like the original one kind of felt like it was sprites on a background of sorts or like a 3D background sometimes. So it's kind of like almost paying a little bit of
homage
to like their original in a way. So it kind of fits the style of how the original one was for the PlayStation.
Just a little bit more oomph.
Yeah, just like
to show that contrast.
Modern look, and it's just definitely more intensely HD 2D.
It's interesting. It's interesting that it's the HD 2D, but it looks different than like the way Octopath does it or the way Dragon Quest 3 does it. So it's good that they're finding ways to differentiate titles with
Gives
that
us
same
some variety,
tech. Yeah. Because if every game looked like Octopath Traveler, like I think I would get tired of it eventually. Like I'm fine with Octopath Traveler looking like that, and like Dragon Quest remakes looking like that, and like that works for me. But I don't know.
Yeah, we need more, I think, art styles that have their own identity. And it's my concern with the HD 2D style that they're all starting to look a little too similar where you can't differentiate them that well.
Yeah.
So this was, I think, an interesting, new twist to it.
Yeah. And that was discounted like
That
really well too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a good find.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with these. I picked up a lot more. I'll be showing them off in a haul eventually on my main channel. We'll see when that happens.
Looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. But let's, I guess, get back to the topic for today, which is the length of these JRPGs. We just showed off a few different games with varying lengths. And I know Branden just released a video on his channel talking about JRPGs being a little bit too long for his taste. Branden, how about you kind of go a little bit into what your video described and kind of the pushback you got a little bit on that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So my video was mostly looking at JRPGs, particularly Persona, and I kind of picked on Persona mostly. And I prefaced it, of course, by saying I love Persona, but some people can't, square the idea that like someone can love something but also have criticisms of it. They're like, if you don't like it, don't play it. It's like, I said I love it. I don't know what to,
Why would you not play something you love?
I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
Like any art, I think is, it's open for criticism. That's how it improves every time, right?
We have to be able to criticize things. Like, so my main point was calling JRPGs too long was sort of a clickbaity thing. Like, and I'll admit that, because my real point is that I don't like it when JRPGs or any games don't respect your time and pad out the length with unnecessary or unfun things to do. So my example in like the Persona games is there are a handful of major events that happen out over the course of the game, over the course of the calendar year, but you are required to play every single day of that calendar. And the vast majority of those days, nothing interesting happens. You're just grinding your stats. So you're like, I'm going to go to the coffee shop in Persona 3 because if I work a shift at the coffee shop, it'll upgrade my charm and my courage at the same time, and I get paid for it. So I'm going to do that. But that's not fun. Like, I just push a button and then some text comes by and it's the same text every time and then it's over. Yeah. It's not like I'm not engaged with it. I'm just like grinding it out. And it's all in service of eventually getting back to the fun part in my mind. And I could do without that. And then people are like, well, you can just skip that. Just don't do it. Just go straight back to your room and go to bed. It's like, yeah, I guess. Or like the developers could make the game more fun.
Also, you miss out on opportunities, right? If you don't do that.
Yeah, you kind of have to do it.
Scenes and whatever.
There's things are gated behind these stats.
Exactly.
And my point isn't that. So my point isn't really that games are necessarily too long. Because I also talked about Trails, and I was like, the Trails games, I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours playing the Trails games. It doesn't feel too long to me because the stuff that you're doing, even the side content, is engaging, and it's like telling interesting stories, and it's like rewarding you in interesting ways, and it involves actual gameplay instead of just like reading text and skipping through scenes or whatever. Like, so the fact that those games are so long doesn't bother me, but think games like Persona and the like, it's they're made longer than they need to be, I guess is what I'm getting at, if that makes sense.
No,
yeah, I just noticed in your comment section, it seems like most people didn't watch the video before they commented, which I think is a skill issue on their part. So
I feel like they saw the video, they saw the thumbnail, and then they went straight to the comment section to like type out their paragraph.
It's a picture of Aigis from Persona 3. How dare you?
Yeah.
Which is what I was hoping for. So thank you for doing that. Everybody
Engagement.
That did that. Engagement. And I don't like, I don't do like super clickbaity stuff. I don't want to be that guy. But it is like, I
it's
want
related.
to spark.
I don't think that's a clickbait title, honestly.
No.
And I want it to spark a conversation, right? Like, and there were people that did watch the video and still disagreed and were like, actually, I like, doing all of these things. I find it relaxing, or I find it this or that. And hey, like, I love that. That's great. I think that's fantastic that people enjoy different games. Yeah.
We look forward to different things about them.
Yeah,
exactly.
Everybody likes different
variety,
things,
right?
Yeah,
all the games can't be the same. That everyone likes XYZ, so every game should have XYZ. That'd be boring.
Right.
Yeah,
that would be terrible, for sure.
Exactly, and like we talked about it previously before too, like in terms of Persona and how our feelings. Like, I'm just about to finish up Metaphor finally, and like, yeah, it's probably one of my definitely one of my. I don't even know if it's maybe my favorite of the year, or it's somewhere up there. Like, I don't know. It's still I'm still like. I have
contender.
This is a contender to be my game of the year type situation. But I can sit there and safely say that it's way too long sometimes. Like I'm spending a lot of time just kind of like going through the motions, especially like towards the end where I'm sitting there going like, well, I have nothing to do, but I have to get through like 7 calendar days or 8 calendar days worth of like time when I wish I could just skip, or can I get straight to the point, and some points like that. So like there's a lot of things that like I think it's like the calendar system that sometimes can make you feel like it's like, because you're just like you're trying to do so many things through the calendar system, and then you're also like trying to, like, for me, my favorite part is like the bonding between the different characters, because that adds development to the story that actually plays into that. So like for me, and then you know, like you're talking about the stats, like a lot of the conversations, if you want to have, you know, if you want to go up in the social link or whatever you want to call it, like you have to have a certain stat number to initiate it, and so you're kind of forced into doing that to have story content that's meaningful. And so like I wish they would give you like the ability to kind of get through that without having to do a lot of the little things like you were talking about, like going to the coffee shop every other day to run through that. Because once you do that for like, let's say if it's an 70-hour game, like gameplay itself, like at least a few hours of that is padded of just you going to the coffee shop at that point. Like how many times do you have to do that?
Literally. I mean, 2 to 3 hours probably of the 100-hour run is just grinding on stuff that's not enjoyable to do. And that's, you know, it's interesting that like some of the pushback was like, well, do something else, right? Like if you don't like that stuff, do something else. But the problem, and this is a game design problem, and this reminds me of Final Fantasy VIII, actually. So Final Fantasy VIII, if you play Final Fantasy VIII the way they want you to, it's actually pretty cool. Like the gameplay systems all kind of work together, and it's really an interesting and novel sort of concept to play Final Fantasy VIII the way they want you to. But nobody plays Final Fantasy VIII the way they want you to because there is a quote unquote easier but more boring way to play it. And because it's easier, people will choose to do that, even though the actual way to play the game is much more complicated and much more interesting. So it's the same kind of thing where it's like, sure, maybe there is a more interesting way for me to grind my stats, even in Persona. I don't know, maybe there is. But like, this is the easiest way for me to do it. And so instinctively, that's what I do, because it's like, I just need to get this done. So like good game design, and like Final Fantasy VIII, they failed at like making that battle system understandable and enjoyable because they left that big loophole where you could take the easy way out and everybody was bored and hated it, you know? So anyway, the concept that it's, you know, the player is responsible for their own fun to an extent, I guess, but like the developers have a great deal of control within their game to say, like, you know, we want you to reach this certain level in this stat before you can unlock this character growth event or whatever. Fine, that's cool. But like the process to do that should also be enjoyable. And at least for me, that sort of like doing the same thing over and over, it's not even like, it's not like a grinding in the sense of going fighting in battle. There's no skill involved. You just choose an option, and then you've been, that's grinding, you know? So that's just not, I don't know, it's not engaging for me. And the other thing, so that brings me to like kind of the next topic I wanted us to look at with this, is the idea that more time equals better value. Because that was a big thing that I got from comments on this particular video, was I'm not going to play any game that's less than 20 hours because there's no value there. Or I want my games, I don't care how much I have to grind, I'm going to play 200 hours on this game so I get my money's worth. And to me,
to an extent, I could understand that. However, I think we're going to have the same thing but you're going to
It's a question of, first of all, how much do you value your time? And if you value your time, I guess, I don't know how do I put this without sounding like a jerk. If you value your time low enough.
Well, time is money, no?
Yeah.
Because
and if
we
you
can
say
do other
like,
things to, you know, that's more worth our time to be engaged in.
So if pushing a button over and over and over to grind a stat is worth it, is worth the time you're spending to you, I just don't think that, like, if you really sat down and did some soul searching, I would think, you know, that you could be having more fun with this game than just pushing this button over and over, right?
Perhaps.
Like,
if I could push back a little bit, I haven't played much of the calendar system games, for example, like in the Personas and whatnot, but I could see the appeal of someone who just wants to have their brain turned off at the end of their like a hard work day and do something that's not, you know, super difficult to do. Like instead of watching TV and also being brainless, you know, watching TV, they could play a game and then just do some simple remedial tasks while grinding out stats. And they'll get kind of a high seeing their numbers inflate, because that's something I think a lot of us as JRPG, you know, gamers, we enjoy our characters to grow, and seeing that artificial number, you know, inflate. It seems like we're working towards building upon something. So I can definitely see the appeal in that direction, because I think we all kind of value our time in different respects and how our energy is and everything. So again, like I could understand it. Do I fit in that? Not really. There's a reason why I haven't played a lot of Persona games.
Yeah. Like for me, like I like it when it's like, see, cause like I love, you know, I'll sit down and I'll grind, you know, battles, like, you know, I'm in like metaphor right now. Like I sit down,
stream and they grind.
Yeah.
Like while watching someone else. And
I'll grind. And sometimes I'll do that while watching like something funny on like, you know, my tablet or something like that, or like on the side, or like, you know, I'll be multitasking. I do that a lot, especially if I'm playing handheld, you know, if you're on the Switch or you're on the Steam Deck or something like that, and you're just like grinding through a game and you're doing your thing and while watching, it's great. It's a great feeling. And I think that's like, that's a self-imposed thing that you're doing. When it's part of the gameplay where like you're kind of forced into it, it kind of feels like almost a chore at that point. Yeah, exactly. Like, so like I did this to myself. and you know, I'm okay with
true.
it.
Yeah.
Like
that's true.
But I think some people, they like, you know, there's different types of walks of life, and there are different things that we find joy in. And so I can definitely see how someone like who, you know, they don't want to have any sort of, you know, they want to be directed to do something and then they get rewarded for that. Yeah. Like I think that's a condition that a lot of humans have.
Exactly.
So,
right.
I could definitely see the appeal of it. It just 100%. Doesn't necessarily appeal me.
Yeah.
And it is biology too. Like we like to see number get big. Like, and that's just a fact of the human brain, right? That's why there like so many mobile games are just that, just like make number get big, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so I totally understand that, and I also like to see number get big. I really do. Like,
I like to min-max my stuff all the time.
It's a pure
usually
joy.
I do it a little bit more strategically than just, you know, putting time to min-max it, but it's another way to do it.
You're right, but it is great. It feels really good to do it. So I get it. And like I said, I think I even said it in my video. I was like, when that stat number increases, it's like,
it's a rush. Yeah.
It feels so good. And
you accomplish something, right?
The sound effect or whatever. And it's like, man, that's good. But then when I think about it, I'm like, I didn't do anything. I feel so good about this accomplishment.
Honestly, when it comes to video games or watching TVs, like if you finished a series or something, did we really do anything? Like sometimes intellectually, right? We had exposure to different stories and maybe different ways to look at gameplay, but is it the same thing as going out and working? No.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have much to show for it, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hobby.
It's a leisure.
It's leisure time. Yeah. Like, you don't read a book and you're like, I came away, like I've now, you know, done this much in my professional life and so on. No, like unless you're, you know, your job is to read something. But
unless you're like the 1% who always has to do something productive. Yeah. Which is not me.
Not me.
Exactly.
No.
But yeah, I think we're all understanding that it can appeal to some people. Just us specifically, I think, has a little bit less appeal. That's why it's sometimes hard for us to understand why people are like so defending, you know, the calendar system or the stat boosting or whatever it is. Just have that reaction to your video.
Like it's funny because like, you know, I'm sitting here, I'm saying like, oh, I don't like, you know, I don't want games being too long, but like if I look at my 2024, like the majority of the games I played were like 80+ hour games, and I'm like, I'm a victim of my own problem here. So like I know and I think that's probably why I'm at this, or like,
maybe not diagnosing the problem that we don't like. You know?
Exactly.
Like we could criticize, we don't like long games, but we also just want enriching games that we're fully engaged in the whole time. So I don't think length necessarily matters in that respect.
Exactly.
It's more of, I think we have so many games that we regret not getting to, like in our backlog, that it's just just what time is. We have such a limited finite time. It's hard to pick and choose where to spend our time.
Well, and I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the people who are like, I want this game to be 200, 300 hours. I'll play it on hard so that it takes me even longer, and I will replay it and stuff. And it's like, I guess, for some people, like they may not have the disposable income to buy stupid things, like enormous amounts of games.
We did that, right? We had finite resources.
Enjoyed the game that we had to its barest, we wore it out because we had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a different situation for me where I have disposable income where I can buy games.
Like
and so I would like them. And I want to.
Everyone's going to call you out on that.
I don't. It's fine. I deserve it. But like I don't like I have so many games I want to get to that if a game I don't feel like it's respecting my time in the way that I want it to, then I'm going to be less thrilled about that. But even like I said,
you're also in a different position though. You review games, so your time is already occupied so much by other obligations. That you have very finite time to play games for leisure right now. Sure,
yeah, that's very true. But like. My feelings about it have basically remained the same since even before I was reviewing games. You know what I mean? It's like I have had this backlog for too long.
That's true.
So
we all do.
But you're right. You're right. Like now in particular, more than ever, I don't have the time. And I think we talked about this on the episode we had David on, where it's like sometimes I need hand holding. We were talking about hand holding in games. I was like, sometimes I need it because it's like, I just need to get going. Like I need to move here because I have a deadline or whatever. So it's a similar kind of thing where it's like, I need to get on to the next thing. I'm not that I'm not enjoying the thing when I'm experiencing it. I feel like I do a decent job of being in the moment and experiencing the game as it's meant to be experienced. And again, just to reemphasize for people that I love Persona. I think when Persona 5...
That's what this episode's about. Branden declaring his love for Persona.
The title of the episode is going to be... seriously, guys, I love Persona.
I actually love Persona. I don't hate it. Like you think I do.
It may have been my favorite game of the year when Persona 5 came out. Persona 4 was one of my favorite all-time games for a long time. Still ranks very highly for me. So it's not like I dislike the games. I just feel like there are these elements in them that could achieve the same effect of making me feel good about number get big, but do it in a more engaging way.
And we brought up Trails too, right? Like that's
Trails, exactly.
Easily our favorite games, but we also criticized it. I feel like we need to have a dedicated episode of criticizing things we don't like about our favorite games. If you guys want to hear that, just let us know.
Especially if you want a Harvestella episode. We'll have
I'll
Branden
replay Harvestella and I'll discover all of the flaws in it that I missed the first time.
It turns out Branden actually hates it.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Why did I like this so much?
I was just talking
this
to
whole time.
Another former guest, Alex, who was on a month ago or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm afraid to replay Harvestella because I'm genuinely afraid I'm going to be like, oh, I didn't notice this about it last time. I'm not. I like it less now. So I'm
it's too new for you to have those regrets for those.
Yeah, probably.
That's true. Yeah,
probably.
Hopefully not.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, the cost. So the thing that I have the hardest time, and maybe you guys can present a different perspective on it for me, but the thing that I genuinely have the hardest time coming to grips with the opposing side of this argument is it's worth more money to me. I don't want to spend $70 on a game that's less than 150 hours. Now, I would agree that like if a game genuinely felt like the story and the gameplay, everything felt like it needed to be 150 hours, I don't think that wouldn't bother me. Like I said, I've played some very long games that I thought were respectful of my time and did a great job with that time. But I've also played very short games that I paid quote unquote full price for that I thought were extraordinary. And I don't feel like I was ripped off in the slightest for paying full price, $60, $70 for them. Because to me, like what I'm buying is the experience. I'm not buying the time, right? I'm not saying I'm willing to put down $70 if you will let me also give you 200 hours of my time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm paying $70 for the experience, regardless of how long it takes me.
I do think that's maybe an issue with, especially modern games, of how much is this game worth with respect to our time. and trying to do some math of like how many hours per minute or how much of this, if it's a $60 games, how much of that per hour am I, playing?
Right. Yeah.
However, I think the flaw with this argument is, as we mentioned, sometimes there's financial reasons why a lot of people don't buy games. That's why they try to, justify their purchase with however much time they're willing to put into a game. I think another, though, like that's not financial related, is people want to also master a game. So they feel like a very complex game. It's more rewarding to completely master a game that's long and complex. And they can replay over and over, maybe speed run or, do other sort of activities with it. So they could get the full experience and know the game inside and out. So... I like that as its own thing. Like, there's a streamer on YouTube, Tantacles. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tantacles. He does like challenge runs of JRPGs. So he'll be like, playing Final Fantasy VII only girls, like team only girls, or like, there's other things that are like genuinely like harrowing. Like, how is he going to do this sort of thing? And so he's spending enormous amounts of time in a game, but like he's not just creating content, but presumably is like enjoying the experience of doing that. And I think that's great. Like if you can make your own fun with a game that goes beyond even what the developers intended. Yeah, like if you can do that and you have the it's very the time to do that, it's great. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So people that are like either have budgetary concerns or want to master a game or want to learn how to speed run a game, understand that like I totally love that. That's
like
respect.
It's like not for me. I'm not going to do that. I would be bad at it. But I like watching speedrunners. I like watching people that are very skilled at games. That's enjoyable for me to watch. But I'm never going to be that guy that does that because I need to know what is going to happen in the next story. I need to see the next thing. Or I'm going to lose my mind.
We can't stay in the same world for too long, I think.
Right, we got to jump. Around.
Because I was like, you definitely see a lot of people who do that. Like, there's a lot of those like randomizers that people have for like, I know there's one that's like mixes like Metroid and Link to the Past into one where you can keep switching, and like you have to be a master at both of those games to be able to like get through it. And it's like it's interesting because like those people are putting in hundreds, thousands of hours just on these like one or two games, but that's their passion though. Like that's what they want to do. That's what they want to get into. And I understand like that's, I love that for them. And I love watching that.
I think there's also, but I think there's also an argument about physical versus digital and on this kind of topic, because I feel like a lot of people who buy their games digitally, they expect to have a very, short amount of money or a low amount of money that they're investing. But if they buy a game like day one and pay full price, they expect that their time will be worth it. And so whereas us, we could have like our games on the shelf, right? We could resell them if we wanted to, or do other things with them. Like we're not constrained to just having it just in our digital library. So I think that's also maybe where some people are coming from. When it comes to how much value a game is with their money and time.
Seeing it as an investment of like, I need to get X amount of enjoyment out of this for it to be worth it. And that's, and it's also people, it's also people playing games for different reasons too. Like for me, if the story of a game is engaging and it is 120 hours long, then I will be engaged for 120 hours, and that's fine. Like that's how long it needs to be. Great, I'm into it. But some people don't play even JRPGs primarily for the story, the characters, or the aesthetics, or whatever they play it for, the gameplay, the combat, whatever it might be. And to them, obviously, it's going to be a very different thing. If the game is 120 hours of story with very little gameplay, they may not like that. But if it's primarily gameplay, they're going to be much more into it probably than even I would. So
we talked about this controversy, right? Or Abdallah, do you have anything else to add? I was going to shift to
no, you can shift
adjacent topic, thinking that we should maybe talk about, other than Persona, like what other games do we think may have been too long, and maybe provide some context of why we feel that way. And if anything else, like our viewers, if you agree with us on these takes or you disagree for the reasons maybe we've stated before of why people enjoy games differently. I'll start. I do think Dragon Quest XI was too long. And the reason for this is because I think when you get to the first set of credits, it did not feel like a full experience. And I was very disappointed when that happened. But then I learned later, like, oh, you're actually supposed to play past the credits. And that's when the real story unfolds and the real ending is, which I don't like the deception there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not fun.
Yeah.
I experienced that. Overall, I like the game. I like the characters, but that deception was not fun.
The mid credit, like the mid game credit thing, they're not the only game that's done that.
Yeah.
I feel like
they're not.
there are some games like it is. I don't understand it. I feel like they're trying to be meta, like there's some sort of meta experience they want you to have. And if that's the case, I mean, cool, I guess. But yeah, I had a similar feeling where I was like, this can't be it. And,
like that was such a lame ending.
Rolling.
But...
Yeah. But then you go and make everything better or whatever.
Yeah. And then that also had some grinding. I don't think the grinding was too bad, especially if you did the metal slime stuff. But
yeah.
I liked all the different worlds or the different areas that you got to explore, and the battle was fun and the story was fun. We talked about the silent pro tag, how that was a bit lacking in that game.
Yeah.
But
luckily the other characters are great.
I just feel like the pacing could have been better to make it a more polished experience and not have that midpoint disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I went into the game strong and I loved it, and then like there was like a little bit of a lull. It kept losing. It kept going. It had a lot of like ups and downs of like the steam would just be lost, and then you kind of get back into it, and then like it depends on the moment in the game. And I think it could have been a little bit more streamlined from a story perspective to kind of keep things flowing a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the game, but like it definitely had moments where it's a bit of a slog, I think, like to there was like some moments like that, which I hope they kind of alleviate that in 12. But who knows?
Well, 12 is going to be interesting, I think, once they share more information.
Yeah, we'll figure out what that is.
But yeah, I can't remember how long it took me to do Dragon Quest 11. Like once everything was done,
it was a long game.
It was kind of a long.
I want to
experience.
say it was closing in on 100 hours for me.
Yeah, I think for me too.
Because there was a lot of grinding.
There was grinding,
been, I think,
like
a pleasant 80-hour experience.
Yeah,
like that's still long.
It's still a pretty.
I could have stayed 20 hours.
It's still a long game.
Yeah.
Almost an entire day of my life.
Yes. But that was my example. Do you guys have any other examples?
Well, there's been like long games, and I think that's like if I was to do like a dragon, we were talking about. I think that's maybe like a Sega thing. If we're going into that, but
Sega
like
Atlas.
Sega Atlas. Which I mean,
I picked on Square Enix, so we'll have to make it rounds.
But I love like that's the thing is like, and I think what Like a Dragon did a great job of is it partitioned off like all the extra stuff where it didn't really always have like there's sometimes where you're forced to do certain things, but you can kind of get away with just kind of going through with the flow of the game, and it'll be a lot shorter if you wanted to. And I think
they had mini games, right? I don't know if they were skippable. But
you can skip them. There's a lot of them that you can skip. It depends on what you're trying to do with the game. I mean, you can skip them to an extent. Like there's like you initially have to start them up and you have to play a little bit like story wise.
You don't have to master them.
But you don't have to master them. And I think that's the same way like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was, is that like, I think they did a good job of that where like the game itself is pretty long and you have all this like side stuff that you can do. But like the second I hit a point where I was like, this is too much, I had the choice to be like, I can move forward. And that's like differentiates it between that and like I think what like Branden was kind of get at with Persona is that like
where you're locked in.
You're locked in. Like you have no like if you hit a slog, if you get like a moment of point where you're just like, I'm not really enjoying this like side stuff, you lose out so much if you don't do it. Like you lose story. Where like in Final Fantasy you don't really lose story if you kind of doesn't really play into the actual plot of things.
You might lose some side stories. Yeah. Like there are some interesting side stories in the side content in like Rebirth, for example. Yeah. But it's not the essential. Main story essential stuff. Yeah.
Especially like since like I think with like Persona, it's like the character development is so critical to how you feel, because like it's such a like it's all about friendship and bonding and all these things that kind of go into that. So like you kind of need that to really like, you want that. It's not like a need, but you want it. So you're kind of forced into it.
And sometimes the side content or the mini games, they're actually fun. Like I will admit that I did all of the side content on the Xenoblade games. Like I didn't have to, but I chose to, even the boring ones, because I just enjoyed the world, the immersion, and I was okay doing some of the checklist stuff. Just to kind of keep that going.
That can be a big part of it too. Yeah. Yeah. That's, and I think that goes to what you were saying, like the counter argument where it's like, you just, sometimes you want to just kind of unwind and just vibe with the game. Yeah. And
exactly.
like, stuff like that, but again, like to the point that you kind of highlighted, Dalla, like in Xenoblade or in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like that stuff is truly side content.
Yes.
Like that is, I am perfectly fine with there being monotonous or,
silly things,
whatever the word is, grinding or things like that are a side piece of the game. Right? It's like when it's
if you want the filler, you could get the filler.
Right.
Exactly.
You can choose your own amount of filler. And there's games where I will play, like you're saying, Emily, like there are games where if I'm vibing with the world hard enough, I will be like, okay, I just want to kind of stick around. I'm not going to like,
oh my God.
I'm going to run around and explore every inch. I'm playing Infinity Nikki right now. And it's just like, I'm just running around and I'm exploring stuff and just just vibing with it, putting together pretty dresses.
I did that with Breath of the Wild too, getting all the little Korok seeds. I didn't get them all yet, but I'm pretty close.
I did lots of that.
Oh, nice.
And even like if I say like a dragon, I was bringing up before, like there's a whole side thing where you're playing as like you're on a board of a company and you're just trying to make money. You're playing like the stocks, like I don't know, I forgot exactly how the gameplay goes, but I like finished that.
Yeah.
And it was just monotonous.
Yakuza's actually really good.
Yeah.
Really good with that. Like side stuff, like
I mean, the side stuff are definitely creative and fun and random.
Mini games.
Yeah, mini games.
The word mini game? Jeez. Okay.
I feel like I said it how many times this podcast.
Over and over. Mini game. Mini game.
Mini games.
Now, I think the one that I'm thinking of, and it like triggered it in my memory, but I couldn't remember which game I was thinking of, Emily, when you were talking about Dragon Quest XI, is Crystar. And I really enjoy Crystar. This is another one that I have sung the praises of quite a bit. And it's not even that it's not a 100-hour long game. It's not. It's like maybe 40, 50, maybe 60, depending on how you play it. So it's not long in that sense, but there is a point in the game where you're seeing the credits roll and then you're having to play more, and then you're seeing the credits roll again and you're having to play more. And to me, that was like a case of, it wasn't that the storyline stopped being interesting, it's that the pacing just got choppy at the end. And that's another aspect of the idea of games being too long, is like, is it too long for what it's trying to do?
Yeah.
Not the hours that you put in.
It's not just a mathematical. And that was, I think, the thing that I still have the hardest time understanding from people's counter arguments to what I was talking about, is viewing everything as just math.
Cost per dollar.
Right. That's just like doesn't compute for me at all. It's not how I think about things. So it's like, I don't know.
Well, you're not mathy, right?
I'm not mathy, particularly. I don't think about things in that way.
Yeah.
I'm mathy, but I don't think of things in that way either.
Yeah. Like I'm having an experience with a game. So like Crystar, when it was finally wrapping up, I'm like, okay, I feel like this is a good place for it to wrap up. I've really enjoyed my experience.
Feel satisfied. Yeah.
And then it kind of was like, no, we're going to keep going a little bit. And then a little bit more. And then a little bit more. And then we're done. It's like, okay, but condense that. And like,
there.
Yeah.
It could have stopped. Would have been good. So that's another side of it, I guess, another aspect of it.
I feel like if people want to be engaged in a game longer, they should look into games that have multiplayer or something,
Yeah.
That doesn't have the time restraints.
Yeah, games that are like competitive too. Like if you just want to enjoy a game like for the sake of the game, like competitive games, I think make a lot of sense there. Fortnite.
That's awesome.
So much Fortnite hours.
Call of Duty. Concord.
That's too funny.
You can hop on No, that's a joke. You can't hop on Concord.
Sadly, no.
It doesn't exist anymore.
No.
Yeah. And then, so like, are there any games that you all can think of that you could honestly, with you could just play forever. Like, to me, I feel like I could probably play Elden Ring just in perpetuity. Like, that game is one that is so respectful of your time. And the way it shows that it respects your time is it doesn't tell you anything, and it just gives you this giant world, and it says, go and find stuff. And you go, and you will always find something. And it's always good. Like, I think we talked about in this podcast the rewards for exploring being underwhelming in some games. I think it was with David.
I think it was with
David,
David,
Dragon Quest in particular. But in Elden Ring, it is always awesome. You go and I just found a cave like in the side of this mountain, and I go in there and there's a boss in this cave, and like 5% of the people that play this game are ever going to see this boss, and there's like really cool loot or whatever when I beat it. Like, it's just
I think games with
really
high replayability factors
Yeah.
are very valuable, especially if you want to keep playing them.
Right.
My example was going to be Baldur's Gate 3. I think it seems like the Western sort of style games, and Witcher 3 is like that for me too, where I could just keep playing it. And there's always something new to find around the corner.
Yeah.
With JRPGs, though, I would say Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is what comes to mind first. I've already spent so much hours in there. I could restart the game fresh and do it again.
Yeah. I think that the gacha mechanics to help in that game, because like you can always just kind of get it always ends up being a little different.
Yeah. I have all the blades now, but I haven't done all the blade quests still. And I'm already like 140 hours in.
I'm gonna admit something. I didn't know there were blade quests when I played it.
I don't know how you got through this game. You didn't play the right battle system with the elements. I think you need to revisit it.
I brute forced it. I missed so much stuff.
Or watch a Let's Play.
Yeah.
And to be honest,
is that how you're supposed to play the game?
And honestly, I still really enjoyed myself.
No, I think it's great, honestly.
I liked it.
There's different ways to play it.
I actually liked it even more than one. People think that's blasphemous, but I actually liked it more than one.
I like it more than one too now.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the reason that I like 3 most is because it had all the good stuff that I liked from 2, but also I understood it. So
they streamlined everything there. So and it was a good story and great characters. So I don't blame you for liking 3 the most.
Yeah.
I like it a lot too.
I think 3 is probably my favorite as well. Just because of just the culmination of everything.
Yeah,
that's true. And as a Xenosaga boy, I can't not like it's just
it ticked all the boxes of like everything I wanted to like of references and things that I liked from all the Xeno games in general that kind of flooded in.
I want to experience the way I felt. This is a tangent. I'm sorry. I want to experience the way I felt when it cuts to that scene at the end of Future Connected, and like it shows like the backyard and the radio. Like I want to experience that feeling in a game again because I was just like,
I know,
mind blown.
I know.
Like I haven't felt that way since I was a little kid, and I was just like, oh
Branden, if only
I was a kid the last time I played those games.
if we were talking, then I would have had somebody to like freak out about it with.
I know. I'm trying to tell my wife, and she's like, "Cool, babe. I don't know what you're talking about."
I was sitting there, and I was like, "I want to freak out. Who do I talk to?" No,
gotta have the dial-up phone from back in the day. And
nobody. No, nobody.
No, look, I never had a rotary phone. I don't know how old you think I am. Never had a rotary phone. My grandma did, though. My grandma had
we
one.
had one when I was really young. So that's what I was alluding to.
Branden was.
Then we switched to
the Branden was
touch tone, baby.
Branden was phone number 1.
Yeah.
just one.
Yeah, the safe ones.
Very easy to find me. Yeah. Abdallah, did we hear your game that you could just play eternally?
Oh, eternally.
Eternally.
Oh my God, I don't know. That's.
Do MMOs count for this? Because they always give new content.
Yeah,
I never played Final Fantasy 14, but I could see myself getting sucked in.
Yeah, no, I've actually, honestly, I've tried to multiple times to like pull myself. I think if I had people I was playing with,
I think that's part of it.
It'd be different because like at some point you gotta I've tried playing it up because you can play it for free for like up until like I think level 30 or 40 or something like that. I don't remember exactly how.
That's what the meme says. The critically acclaimed MMORPG.
Oh, is it?
Has a free trial up to level 30.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
Awesome. Yeah. But yeah, I've tried playing a little bit of it, and then like it's great. It ticks all the boxes of like an MMO brain that you want to tick off. But like at the same time, you're like at some point you're like, kind of wish you could.
You fall off a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. You had somebody else to play with, but a game I could always play. I don't know. I'm blanking on that now.
Maybe there's not. Maybe
I mean,
you are looking for fresh experiences, and that's fine.
I mean, there's games I always go back to, and that's gonna be like, like I've played Xenogears multiple times.
Xenogears,
and I don't think I'll ever. I mean, I've talked about it before, but I think honestly, the game I recently keep going back to is Astrobot.
Oh, interesting.
Like, oddly enough, like we talk about short games that cost full price. Like it's not a long game. I think it's like 20 hours maybe.
20 hours, yeah.
Yeah. But I keep going back and I just keep kind of grinding or like playing like platforming, bits and places. It's just fun. Like it's just a all around fun experience that I can keep going back to and playing and enjoying. And
yeah. That game I think embodies my childhood when it comes to the 3D platformers from Sony.
I know. So. Finding every like little Easter egg or every little thing that you want to do. Like you just every time you find something new, you're just like pleasantly like, oh, that's nice. Like it's like a surprise of like.
How much did you play the playground one or playroom?
I played a lot of it. Playroom. I did everything in that. The Astro's Playroom. So I enjoyed that. So like when they announced this, I already knew like that was a first day buy for me. Because I loved everything about like that playroom. It was so much fun, and so I was like ready for this. And so yeah, like I think this is a game like whenever I need a break from Metaphor, I kind of just jump into that and play like a handful of levels and just like maybe restart the game and do parts of it again and stuff like that and experience them again. So like I think it's one of those games that it's a very interesting.
You saw the fan gamer plush?
Yeah.
The making of the character skins.
I'm pumped. I'm waiting for the ones I want, but I did pick up. They also like had an Ape Escape plush that they made at the same time that has like magnetic hands that you can kind of like latch onto things, and I might have bought that. Just maybe.
Sounds cute. Put it around your shelf. I don't know if you have shelves with like arms.
I've got
yeah.
I could throw it'd be hanging. I'll have it hanging in the back at some point.
Now, so we've talked about long games, but what about
short games?
Games, games that are not that you don't feel like are necessarily worth the money you spent on it, or don't live up to the promise because they probably needed some more time. There needed to be more gameplay, more story, whatever. Yeah. I mean, and padding, like I know that word gets used like negative, as a derogatory sort of term, but it's I suppose it can contribute
though to like character growth and story developments. Yeah, it's not necessarily always a bad thing.
If you're not using it to mean like pointless stuff that's thrown in just to make a game longer, if you're saying like padding can also mean more scenes with characters or secret levels that whatever the case might be, then I think totally padding is fine to talk about. What do you guys think?
I think a good example of like positive padding would be, I think, everyone's perspective of Final Fantasy 15. Because if you think about it, like one of the biggest complaints about Final Fantasy 15 is like not knowing what other character they should have padded out a little bit more of what the characters are doing when they're off screen or how things happen and what's going on. So it's like one of those games that I think like, and that's where they kind of like had to bring out DLC to kind of fill in the gaps and stuff like that.
Fill in the gaps, right?
So I think those are like one of the games that like, I mean, to me, I think like the game was great. But like I think that was like notoriously like the perception that it had overall is that people were like, oh, like
it's missing something.
What else? Like there should be some more. Like I feel like there was like that piece to it. So like it's not necessarily like a short game in general, but it's like one of those games where you can be like, I wish it was a little bit longer just to give me a little bit more development in those areas.
Yeah, I want to say it was like a 40 to 50
Yeah.
hour. The base game was like 40. So it wasn't like short.
No.
But you're right. Like, you know, if you could make the argument, I think, that by including the DLC, like inserting it into the story instead of having it be a separate thing, especially, like that would probably have fixed a lot of the issues that some people had with it.
Exactly.
And it is like truly padding, right? It's not vital to the story, but it fleshes out the world, it fleshes out the characters, and you know it's a positive. I think the DLC was pretty generally well received because it did all that stuff that people wanted it to do. So yeah, I think that's a good example.
Yeah.
I have a joke example.
All right.
So one of the last 3DS games that was an RPG, it's called Fragrant Story.
Fragrant Story.
And originally that game only had 15 minutes of gameplay before the credits rolled. I know they came back, and I think on the Switch now it's a little bit longer. I honestly lost interest because it wasn't that engaging of a story or combat or anything.
What game is this?
Fragrant Story.
I thought I heard Vagrant Story, and I was like, what is...
It's supposed to be a play off of Vagrant Story, but fragrance.
Oh. I don't know why.
Actually, I think the sticker that the box has is a scratch and sniff. So it's supposed to come with a different scent. It was very much like a gimmicky kind of physical, last run of the 3DS systems. And I unfortunately bought it. I unboxed it on my channel and I talked about it, hoping that there'll be more content. And I think they did release more, but again, I lost interest at that point.
15 minutes?
Yeah.
15 minutes. Like you could replay it. And I think you get a couple of characters or two if you replay the 15-minute. It's a strategy RPG. But
yeah.
Was it like a single developer kind of situation?
They had a team.
Very small
I think
team.
they said like they had music from all these famous composers from Japan, and they tried to make it sound like it was this enriching experience that from the indie side, but it just ended up being 15 minutes of gameplay.
It's an enriching 15 minutes though.
No.
Yeah.
The story was pretty lame. There's some voice acting. I'll give them props for some voice acting, but
oh wow.
15-minute voice acting.
Yeah,
there was like a couple lines they read.
A couple, yeah.
15-minute story. Even if that was all
less
story,
than 50
that's
minutes
a
if you call the story. Because there was some gameplay. You had to do some.
Yeah.
So 15 minutes with gameplay.
With
so
gameplay.
The story was probably like what, a few minutes of actual storyline?
5 minutes.
Oh
max.
wow. How have I not? I need to look into this. I'll look this up afterwards.
It's like it's like the haiku of video games.
But again, I don't know. I know they re-released it on the Switch or something digitally, and they said it was better, but I can't imagine they added that much more content.
Well, now they're going to sue us for talking bad about it.
You can't sue for a bad review.
No, you can't, but they can still threaten to.
Wow.
Well, I won't speak on exactly what
come at us
when I talked about it.
Come at us.
Just say that it's weird.
Yeah, I've heard stories.
It's weird.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of
thinking of games that
like what are some games you really enjoyed that were maybe 20 hours, but you wish would go on longer because you just enjoyed it so much?
You know what's a good one is the Trails of Mana. Because that's a short
Trials of Mana?
Trials. Sorry, well, Trails of Mana. Of course,
everyone makes that mistake in my comments whenever I talk about it.
My brain was like automatically
Trails games.
thinking
They say Trials all the time. I'm like,
Trails. Trials of Mana. I think it's like what was that? Probably like a 20-hour game.
25-ish.
Yeah. And that was a fun use of time. Like
I think a lot of old school games.
Yeah, a lot of
probably been longer.
I mean, Chrono Trigger's not long.
No.
It's not.
But do you think it's the right length?
It's got expertly paced, so they would have to make the story engaging to have that stretch out. But for the story as it is, it's like perfectly paced, and so I wouldn't want to mess with that. They would have to do something to make it work, but
like extra DLC bonus content.
Something, yeah. I mean, they put some extra stuff in the DS version. It's also in the Steam version, I think, that ties it a little more into Chrono Cross. But I think the game that I would say is Lunar, the first Lunar.
Oh.
It is. I mean, it's 20 hours maybe. and it's kind of over before you realize it, and it's like, oh, okay, that's it. The second one, Eternal Blue, was at double the length easily and had way more stuff going on. So I think it's generally considered to be a superior title, which is why it's funny that the first one is the one that's been remade like 50 times.
I know.
And the second one has never been. But yeah, I think Lunar was, especially for the hype that I felt, like I don't want to say I was disappointed. Like I still really enjoyed the game. But it was like, oh, I was used to my games being at least 30 hours back then, like Final Fantasy 6, like, Chrono Trigger was kind of an exception, but the thing is I played Chrono Trigger and replayed Chrono Trigger so many times that the timer on my game was like maxed out. You know what I mean? Like you can't, you couldn't tell the time anymore. So I wasn't thinking about Chrono Trigger in terms of its time. I just was getting all the endings and just replaying it over and over and over. But yeah, Lunar was maybe a little on the short side. It'll be good to have the collection and have them both together, because then you can jump right into the second one. And they're really great. They're really great games. Yeah, they're really great.
I'm hoping with like the remasters, like with the new translations as well, to see if there's a little bit more of like more meaningful character interaction sometimes, because that's one of the things. Like I wish it was longer to give a little bit more oomph to the characters. Because like there's just like it's a game that I think deserves a little bit more of that, how the characters are and the story that they're in. It's like it kind of was very lighthearted, but the stakes were high for them. So like it was a very very jokey, like it's like that style, the 90s style of like media at the time. But yeah, I would love to see like Lunar, if it was a little bit longer, a little bit more fleshed out. The first one especially would be amazing. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I have my real choice now.
Oh yeah.
I played this Sword and Fairy together forever.
Oh yeah.
It's about a 25-hour experience, and I really enjoyed it. Actually, I just my main complaint with this game is the voice acting is all in Chinese, and so when they do the English subtitles, it's really fast, because Chinese, when it's spoken, it's very compact, and so it's hard to explain exactly what that means translated to English.
Yeah.
So the pacing for that was a little bit difficult for me to follow sometimes. But it's a lovely game, and I really like the world. I really like the wuxian kind of Chinese high fantasy stuff. So it would have been cooler to spend a little bit more time there and play with all like the demons and stuff. Spirits you get to collect and things like that. The story.
I know we didn't get all of those games because that's the sixth one. No. Yeah. How many of them have we gotten? Just that one?
No. There was, let's see. There's some other similar games, but for Sword and Fairy, I believe we had this one, the game that I think the fifth one that came before it, and was it one of the really old ones? Starting Forge, I think, did another one that they released, that they remastered. I know they have. I would have to look at that again.
I know I have one of the spin-offs, like the Sword and Fairy Inn.
I don't know if that's related. Like, it sounds familiar. Like, it sounds similar, but it's really, I don't think it has anything to do with the storyline. Oh. I could be wrong, though. It might be the same developers, and it might be like a side game. But, because that one's like a simulation game, right?
Right.
Oh, okay.
So maybe it's related. I always just assumed they weren't, but maybe they are.
I don't know. I bought it because I wanted to buy something. I went to that big video game store in Washington, D.C.
The big box.
What's that called? What's that place called? I forget now. But I was like, I can't walk out of here without it. Yeah, East Starland.
Or Starland.
I was like, I can't walk out of here without buying something. I'm at East Starland. When is the next time I'm going to be here? So I bought that, and I was like,
that's true.
$30, whatever.
It looks cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, this, if it was a little bit longer, like a 40-hour game, that would have been awesome. Rather than 25.
A little rushed.
Yeah, a little bit rushed. Like, there's a lot of cool mythology, and I'm a little bit familiar with Chinese mythology from like shows and stuff and books I've read. But there's plenty that I think I was missing, like some context for. So if they would have elaborated a bit more of that in the game itself, that would have been, I think, cool. And explored more of those kind of, like, you get to go to like to the demon realm and all these different kind of places. And it'd be, I think, cool if they let you stay there and linger a little bit longer and put more like secret areas and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
That sounds awesome. I need to play those.
Yeah. We'll have to play more of the CRPGs, so the Chinese RPGs.
We can do an episode on that.
Make an episode on that.
Yeah. Once we all have a little experience under our belts, then we can speak with some authority.
Yeah, and how it's a little bit different from our Western or Japanese RPGs we're more used to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think any other, I guess, games we wanted to mention, or do we want to? I
feel satisfied. I think we've I think we nailed it. Whether people do agree with us or disagree with us is to be determined. But
let us know if you want to.
And let's hope people don't just rush to the comment section before listening to our nuanced takes.
Right. They're like, oh, this video is an hour and 10 minutes long. Forget it.
Forget it. JRPGs are not too long. You're wrong. But we'll love to hear from you guys. If there are any JRPGs or just RPGs in general that you think are too long or maybe too short, and kind of let us know of how you would like to see maybe these games approached in the future to have more value for your time you put into them.
Yeah, even though this is kind of a quote unquote hot button issue, I still think you can have really interesting conversations in this topic. So we'd love to hear what you all think about this stuff too.
Yeah, totally. And I guess we'll close today's episode. So thanks for tuning in. And Branden, where could we find you on the internets?
I am Just the Gems on YouTube, and Just the Gems. Search for me on social media. I'm on basically all the platforms. So yeah,
just slightly varied names.
Yeah.
Ever so
that's what I said. I've stopped even trying to explain it. Just look me up. Just use the search function and it'll find me.
That's fair. How about you, Abdallah?
Yeah, you can find me on social media at Abdallah998. So Bluesky or Twitter.
Sounds good. And you can find me, Emily, at orbalology here on YouTube or any other social media platform. And we'd like to thank you guys again for tuning in to this week's episode. We'll have another one coming up next week, same time.
Same place.
So until then, bye guys.
Take care.
Bye.